If your Lightroom edits look too harsh, too flat, or just not right, you're probably making one of these beginner mistakes. Today I'll show you the 5 biggest mistakes that I see beginners making in Lightroom and how to fix them fast. Hey everyone, I'm Justin Blackridge, and if you've just watched my Lightroom beginner guide, then this is the perfect next step for you. Let's fix some common mistakes so your edits start looking clean, crisp, professional, and consistent. Mistake number 1. So I see people just cranking the clarity and the texture way too much. If you come down here in our basic panel, you're going to see your texture and your clarity. So if you take the clarity and just take it way too far, it starts to make your image look crunchy, harsh, unnatural. Especially if there's people in your image, you need to be really careful with this. As you can see, if I'm kind of having these right up in your 60s and your 80 plus, you can just see here that it's really kind of affecting the image way too much. One of the main things you'll hear me say is like, just start off nice and low, just add it little bits by little bits. So instead of cranking the clarity, keep your clarity low and only add texture where it actually helps. You don't always need to add texture. Maybe in this image, for example, I would add texture maybe just to the bird by using a mask. So a little bit of clarity, a little bit of texture, keeping it nice and simple. Step number 2 is ignoring your white balance. So get comfortable using your slider up here and adjusting your cool and warmer temperatures. If you're unsure, this little dropper here is amazing. If you happen to have something white in your image, like maybe this part in the background that I have, if I click on that part of the image, I am telling that image what I believe is white, and it can adjust that slider for you. So as you see, when I used that, it didn't change it too much. It just goes to show that I shot this image pretty close. But maybe I want to make this image a little bit on the warmer side. So I'm going to use this slider, I'm going to drag it ever so slightly to my warmer temperatures, and it just kind of changes the photo a little bit. So maybe you want a warmer style in your photo, or maybe you want the opposite, you want to make it cooler. If your photo feels cold and lifeless or too warm and orange, this is why. So just don't ignore your temperature slider. So mistake number 3, this would be blasting your vibrance and saturation. This is one of the easiest ways to make your edit look cheap. So just, again, be careful. You don't want to be cranking the saturation right up. Same with your vibrance. There's nothing wrong with wanting your photo to look a little bit more vibrant. But instead of pushing global saturation, for example, to the whole image, use the HSL panel to adjust the colors individually. So if you want to go down, that's going to be, let's reset these sliders first. The color mixer, that's where your HSL sliders are. So get comfortable using these and just kind of picking out the colors you want to boost your saturation on, rather than adding it to the whole image. So for example, the yellow that's in this bird's feathers. If I just want to get a little bit of extra pop in the bird, I can bring up the yellow, a little bit of the blue and the purple, rather than going into my saturation panel up here, my saturation slider in the basic panel, and just cranking that right up. It's just going to be too much. Just be careful. We don't want to go over the top with it. If you want to know the difference between saturation and vibrance, saturation boosts the intensity of all colors in an image equally, while vibrance kind of selectively increases the intensity of the less saturated colors, often protecting skin tones from oversaturation, stuff like that. So saturation is an overall adjustment, whereas vibrance is a smarter, more selective enhancement. But playing around with them, you'll start to see the difference between the two and kind of what you like to add to your photo. So remember, just be gentle on your sliders. Don't go crazy, or use your HSL sliders and kind of narrow down to particular colors you want to increase. Mistake number 4, crushing your blacks and blowing out your whites. There's nothing wrong with a bit of contrast, but if you're gonna crank down your blacks, blast your whites, just looks way too contrasty. This kind of kills the detail and ruins your dynamic range. When using your whites and your blacks, a nice little tip is hold Option on Mac or Alt on PC, while dragging your whites and black sliders, and what they'll do is kind of show you where you're starting to clip. So you can see here when I start dragging my white slider and holding option, it's going to start clipping. So you need to use this to show that you're not going too far. And then if I start to drop the blacks, it's starting to crush. So just be careful on that. If you're wondering the main difference between the whites and black slider compared to your highlights and shadows, whites and blacks set the extreme point, so of the brightest and darkest areas, while highlights and shadows adjust detail within those areas. So adjusting whites and blacks defines the absolute white and black points of an image, while highlights and shadows are kind of recovering tools for bringing back detail in the bright and dark points, kind of respectively, right? Rule of thumb is I kind of set the white and blacks first and then move to my highlights and shadows just to fine tune the image. So mistake number 5 is just adding too many adjustments globally to the image. So if I wanted to bring up the brightness of the image so I could see the bird better, maybe I'd come over here and start bringing up my exposure. So that now the bird looks very well exposed, but overall the image is too much. So something we want to get comfortable doing is using our masks tools. So without deep diving too far into masks, I can save that for another video. So comment down below if that's something you want to learn more of. But let's quickly just select our subject here, isolate the subject away from the background. And if I wanted to bring up the exposure a little bit on the bird, or maybe a little bit of the highlights, I can do that just to the bird, so just to the subject of the photo. Let's close that down. So in this instance, we don't really want to brighten up the whole image when we just wanted to brighten up the subject. So only the subject needs lifting. Or for example, if you had a photo with a sky in it, you could use your mask here to select the sky and just focus on the sky rather than the whole image. And if you're still with me at this part of the video, I have also got a bonus mistake for you. So something that I don't see a lot of beginners doing is cropping their image. Get comfortable at cropping your photo. I know you've put a lot of effort into taking this photo, but why not remove a bunch of that dead space that's kind of hanging around? So there's nothing wrong with just getting rid of a little bit of the dead space, or maybe the bird wasn't quite centered, for example. So we're gonna crop our image just a little bit so we can move the bird around within our framing and just kind of get some more focus on the center of our image. Maybe you're someone who likes to post a lot of your images on Instagram. So why not post it 4x5? That way you know exactly what you're working with. So when you go to edit your photo, you can go straight into Instagram and you know it's going to be framed perfectly. That way you're not kind of focusing on the image as a whole, and you get kind of annoyed when something gets cropped out, because Instagram doesn't allow you to always upload the photo as a whole frame. It does always crop it a little bit, so just keep that in mind. So yeah, get used to using that crop tool. Some people like to do it at the end of their editing, whereas it is something that I will kind of do at the start, just so I know what I'm working with the whole time when it comes to editing the light and the colors and all that sort of stuff. So those are 5 mistakes that I see a lot of beginners making when getting into their photo editing, and fixing them will improve your edits instantly. So if you have found this video helpful, hit like and subscribe. Comment down below if you want to see me make a video about the masking tools and really deep diving into that, because it is extremely helpful when it comes to your editing. And I'll see you in the next one.